Hello and welcome to today's session of Daily Current Affairs with Sathya sir. This is me Sathya from IQ Ideas and I bring you important current affairs updates, daily news from a leading newspaper. Great articles that you can read to improve your reading comprehension abilities and of course point out good words of vocabulary to improve your overall English. Today is the 6th of August 2025 and without further ado, let's jump into today's headlines. So the first important news page is a global page which has quite a few interesting details. The first one reads Israel mulls complete military takeover of Gaza. Now we are aware of the ongoing conflict between the two countries, right? Palestine has been in the news for a lot of time. So this says, according to BB, that is the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, it is necessary to ensure Gaza never again constitutes a threat to our country. Pretty strong words. So, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu favors a complete military takeover of Gaza, media reported, and was to meet senior security officials on Tuesday to finalize a new strategy in the 22-month war. Mediation between Israel and Palestinian militant group Hamas has collapsed despite intense international pressure for a ceasefire to ease hunger and appalling conditions in the besieged Palestinian enclave. So, important news. Let's see whether there is any significant update in the near future, whether an actual military takeover takes place, in which case there will be a lot of escalated tensions and warfare in that region. A few important and interesting words from this. Mulls is considers. So I'm mulling over this matter. I'm thinking over this matter. I'm considering this matter. Then, of course, we have words like ceasefire, which is a cessation of or stopping of military conflict or violence between two or more parties. Then we have the word besieged. So it comes from the word siege, right? To lay siege is to lay attack or to surround something and plan an attack. So besieged is something which is under an attack. And of course, we have the word enclave. An enclave in this context could mean an enclosed space, right? Enclave. Okay. So that's the first news. Then, of course, the other news from the same page, we have things like uh, Trump, President Donald Trump of the US, again in the news. So this is Donald Trump says that he will meet Xi, that is the head of state for China, if the trade deal is sealed. So it says they say US and China are getting very close to an agreement. But a lot of announcements have been made by Donald Trump, many on his Truth Media social, and let's read. It says President Donald Trump said on Tuesday the US was close to a trade deal with China and that he would meet his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping before the end of the year if an agreement is struck. He asked for a meeting, and I'll end up having a meeting before the end of the year, most likely, if we make a deal. If we don't make a deal, I'm not going to have a meeting. Trump told CNBC in an interview referring to China's Xi. Okay, but that is what Donald Trump has said. Whether it is substantiated, such a conversation by the Chinese counterparts remains to be seen. Okay. Yesterday we talked about Switzerland being one of the nations on which tariffs were posed. So the Swiss president rushes to US to avert steep tariffs. Now, for large countries, China, India, we can definitely put our national interests before such things. But for relatively smaller countries, such tariffs may not be very productive or may not be, in fact, in their best interests. So Switzerland President Karin Keller-Sutter and Economy Minister Guy Parmelin flew to Washington on Tuesday in a last-minute push to stop the steep new tariffs that have blindsided the country. Switzerland faces a 39% duty. Now, considering that India has been imposed 25% tariffs, of course, with a warning of not purchasing Russian oil, 39% is definitely a steep tariff on Switzerland. So let's see whether there are any good outcomes for Switzerland from this meeting. Okay. In other news, some from Bangladesh. So Mohammad Yunus was the interim head of state for Bangladesh after Sheikh Hasina's ouster. So Yunus has now said that the parliamentary elections will take place in February, right? And this is in the wake of the almost an year since the student-led uprising, which led to the ouster of the former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. Okay, interesting, especially because it is in a country which shares a border with India, and we have had significant issues regarding border security with them. Okay, uh, a statement from Putin, not a statement, but of course, Putin doesn't want to have bad terms with Washington, but war goes take precedence. Now, a lot of tariffs are being announced by US President Donald Trump, and to many countries such as India, the caveat is that we should not be purchasing our oil from Russia because supposedly it is funding the war effort between Russia and Ukraine. So, Russian President Vladimir Putin is unlikely to bow to a sanction ultimatum expiring this Friday from US President Donald Trump and retains the goal of capturing 4 regions of Ukraine in their entirety. Sources close to the Kremlin told the news agency. Okay. And below that, we have NASA issues directive to fast track efforts to put a nuclear reactor on the moon. Pretty interesting news there. Okay, so now finally, after all that great news, couple of big ads, and now we come to the main page. Okay, so Donald Trump again in news. Trump warns of substantial hike in India tariff in 24 hours. More than 25%? Let's read and see. And this part is a quote. Substantial hike in India tariff in 24 hours. Now, that seems to be interesting. It says the ties between US and India are headed downhill on the slippery slope of Russian oil, accusing New Delhi of fueling the Russian war machine. US President Trump said he would, in the next 24 hours, raise tariffs on India exports substantially on top of the 25% he has already announced. In a phone in interview, Trump claimed that New Delhi has agreed to zero tariffs for US exports into India, but asserted that's not good enough because of the Russia issue. And I quote, and if they are going to do that, that is fuel the war machine, then I'm not going to be happy. A peeved Trump said hours after New Delhi defiantly said it would continue to buy Russian oil, arguing that Washington had actively encouraged such imports by India for strengthening global energy markets stability. So let's wait and watch and see what further uh, turmoils happen in this ongoing tariff war. Okay, a sad bit of news, but deadly flash floods flattens village near Gangotri. 4 dead, 50 plus missing. Now that's extremely sad. Okay, uh, in on a lot of tie-ups have been happening with India and other countries. For example, we had the CETA between India and UK. We saw news of India and Maldives, and now Indo-Philippines relations have upgraded to strategic ties. So India and Philippines upgraded their relationship to a strategic partnership with a focus on expanding defense, security, and maritime cooperation, as PM Narendra Modi hosted President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. for bilateral talks. Okay, so let's see what interesting outcomes come as a result of this. We move ahead and skip the city pages. I can skip the state page. Okay, the nation page. Now, this is pretty interesting. There is a huge infographic with the title, How Much EU, that is the European Union, Still Loves Russian Energy. So this is a recommendation for those interested in geopolitics and of course maths and data interpretation. The title of this is How Much EU Still Loves Russian Energy. And it reads, US President Donald Trump has been railing against India for buying Russian oil, but away from the talk of penalties and sanctions, one of America's closest allies stays under the radar as it continues to receive oil and gas from Russia. So let us, there are brilliant line charts, bar graphs. So you can pretty much create a lot of data interpretation and math questions from this single thing. Okay. Then in a continuation from an article on page 1, it says White House has adopted different rules for different countries. Now, obviously, one size does not fit all is definitely a known uh, saying, but let's hope that at least the spirit of equality or equity is maintained while imposing the tariffs and creating the rules for different countries. Okay, there's an update on this page regarding the small news about India-Philippines ties, right? So, eye on Beijing, Delhi and Manila unite in strategic partnership. Okay, so strategic partnership between India and the Philippines. So, India and the Philippines upgraded their relation to a strategic partnership with focus on expanding defense, security, and maritime cooperation. The two sides signed 13 agreements and MOUs, which included finalization of terms of reference for cooperation between all three wings of the armed forces. But amidst protest by China against joint patrolling by India and Philippines in the South China Sea, both sides expressed concern over coercive and aggressive uh, actions there that impact regional peace and stability, and called upon relevant parties to exercise self restraint and commit to peaceful and constructive means to resolve and manage disputes. Now, China has been known to try and establish its power in the South China Sea, and of course, with India and Philippines coming together and jointly patrolling this region, China would have to object. So, pretty interesting times there. Okay, moving ahead, uh, there has been inauguration. Of course, it's an ad, but it was a news that the Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi is inaugurating the Kartavya Bhavan 3. Okay, pretty impressive image. Moving ahead brings us directly to the middle page. Uh, the top article by Ajay Srivastav, who is a research associate at Takshashila Institute, and by Anishri Suresh. Okay, sorry, I beg your pardon. Ajay Srivastav is an expert on trade and tech, and Anishri Suresh is the research associate at Takshashila Institution, and the two of them have given views on Trump trade, no deal or a temp deal. Two contrasting perspectives on Trump's threats, but both agree on his hypocrisy. So, with Donald Trump and his tariff war, if I may say so, being in the news for well over a month now, of course, we are going to have a lot of opinions on this matter. So, these two articles, I would very strongly suggest you read, especially if you want to get good talking points in interviews and other things. Below that, the middle column by a professor of social policy, Neeraj Kaushal, is why people leave equal Bihar for unequal Mumbai. Starting poor in life is alright if there's equality of opportunity and a chance to strike it rich. And the three left columns, top one from Russia. Washington is no slouch when it comes to buying from Moscow. So, what wrong is New Delhi doing? Of course, an opinion piece on Donald Trump's tariffs on India with the caveat about India purchasing from Russia. The second about natural tragedies with the title Angry Clouds and Rivers, Natural Disasters Visit Uttarakhand Regularly. It excels in worsening their toll rashly. And of course, Chuck Surya's second opinion humor column, Gag 3. A single word scores a hat trick by having a trio of different meanings in the country. Is it something related to vocabulary? Read and learn. Moving ahead, we come to the Nation page, where an update is Shah has now become India's longest serving home minister. Okay, so Amit Shah on Tuesday reached the career milestone of becoming the longest serving home minister, drawing compliments from the Prime Minister for an even studied spell. Marked by, okay, he has overtaken LK Advani again from BJP and Govind Pallapant from the Congress. So we just have that Amit Shah longest serving home minister. Okay. And then updates on the parliamentary debates and so on, which we can simply miss. There's a special page when Tommy met Neelam and Abhaya was born. I think it is related to hybrid varieties of mangoes. Then there's a column in Kerala. If you see a snake, you don't panic. You call Sarpa Women and SARPA, which is the Snake Awareness Rescue and Protection app. So something related to snake conservation and protection. There is a health page with articles on health, a business page where the rupee hits another low at 87.8 per dollar as Trump's threats escalate. The business page, I will leave for those interested in business news and economy to read. Next page, ongoing test match between India and England, where yesterday, if I memory serves me right, it was at 2-2. So a lot of articles related to that. And the last page with minor details on various sports, which brings us to the end of this session. So those were the news articles from today, a few words which we picked up, definitely worth reading. As usual, the Israel-Palestine issue update was there. Trump's various statements have been there. The couple of interesting snippets of information, such as the strategic ties between India and Philippines and China's worry on that, and of course Amit Shah becoming the longest-serving Home Minister. So if you have liked today's episode, do hit that like button, share it with your friends, subscribe to this channel if you haven't already done so, leave your comments below. This is Satyanarayan signing off for today. Wish you all the very best and have a good day.